Enroll now at Australia's Sydney Met and win a scholarship of up to $15,000. Apply today.
Tonight on First at 9, this Sunday the 14th of April 2024. Total reform. Reforming state-owned enterprises will bring in more revenue to the state, says World Bank officials, and vow to support the government of Sri Lanka to make reforms irreversible.
There could be a much more profitability, much better service delivery, and ultimately even more revenue to the government.
Regional impact. Sri Lanka to host meeting for health ministers of BIMSTEC and to share action plan on health and human resources development with regional cooperation. Weather update. Meteorology Department issues advisory warning of severe lightning, asks the public to take adequate measures to avoid harm. April boom. Sri Lanka achieves over 1/4 of tourism arrivals target for this year.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
This is Derana First at 9 with Indivari Amuata and Mahish Jani. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A very good evening, everyone, and welcome to First at 9. On the top of the bulletin, let both of us wish you all a very happy new year, and thank you for taking the time to join us on this Sunday night. A good evening and a happy new year to you, Indi.
Thank you, Mahesh. A very warm welcome to all of our viewers. We wish you a healthy, prosperous, and a happy year ahead as Sri Lankans celebrate the Sinhala and Tamil New Year. Of course, Mahesh and I began the week a little earlier. We generally bring the news to you from Monday to Friday, but we thought we'll see you on the top of the new year.
Is that a good thing? I don't know. Only you can tell.
Let's consult the official NACAT committee.
Exactly, to see whether is that a good omen or not. The new year is no different. There's a lot of stories to bring to you with regard to our economy, with regard to what's happening around the country. The new year is pretty much giving us a premise of what's to come. This is, I think, would be the start where we get very serious about the elections per se. Soon after the new year, we will definitely have conversations, a concrete set of conversations that will occur with regard to the elections, presidential, parliamentary elections. Looks like the SLPP wants the parliamentary elections first. So God only knows. Actually, not God. I think it's the president along with the rest of the people.
The president indicated that it would be the presidential elections, asked officials to prepare for presidential elections, but I suppose these parties will continue to negotiate, strike alliances and try to work together because no party seems to be able to really conquer or obtain a majority. It looks like
even in a presidential, I think if we are heading for a presidential election, one of the biggest conversations and one of the biggest questions we might have is, can either candidate, because the field is getting very saturated as we move on, and can anyone actually get the 50% and one vote in order to secure the presidency?
And probably that's when we might try to decode the terms hung parliament, coalition, alliance, and all kinds of political terms here in these very studios when we bring to you the election results.
In the UK, hung parliament is something that they always see if by any chance the majority party cannot secure the majority, it becomes a hung parliament. Hopefully we might not be able to hear that, because if we start to, lots of
we just need actually, I mean, a parliament that will work through this post-crisis revival period to bring lasting reforms to the country. I think that's what we all should hope for. But I think it's time we get on with the news for tonight. We have a number of stories to report. We have World Bank expectations, the IMF, and how Sri Lanka is going to negotiate the rest of the process on the external fund facility as well as the debt restructuring process. And the IGP, the Navy commander, talks about combating drugs and narcotics that come into the country. Of course, the only politician that we hear from today is the SJB leader, who's talking about his policies. We don't have any statements by any of the other politicians. But
because anyway, whatever the election, whoever comes to power, economy is going to take center stage. So let's begin our bulletin now with regard to the economy per se. Now commenting on the ongoing reforms pertaining to state-owned enterprises, the World Bank is of the view that reforming profitable SOEs in the country will further improve the quality of service and provide better accessibilities to the public in obtaining services, resulting in an increase in state revenue in the long run.
This was mentioned by senior economist of the global lender Richard Walker while addressing a media briefing following the publication of Sri Lanka's development update.
Meanwhile, when questioned about the impact of the upcoming election and reforms the government has embarked on, country manager Chiyokanda said that World Bank is in the process of supporting the Sri Lankan government to strengthen the reforms to make these entities more resilient to any changes.
In terms of the power and energy reforms, one of the key reforms has been the adjustment in utility prices, and as a result you see now the CEB is no longer making these huge losses. So I think that was an important reform. Of course that had an impact on households and affordability, and it comes to this point of the importance of supporting the poor and vulnerable who are struggling with this. I think the other point of the reforms is to enhance the governance, the efficiency of the utility, so that over time the production of electricity, the cost is brought down. So if you are charging tariffs according to cost, over time you would see that come down and the affordability would improve.
So how do you remove this SOE reforms in the sense like privatization of telecom, Sri Lanka insurance?
There's a point you make around these SOE reforms and in some sectors where they are profitable. But I think if you look at some of those sectors, the level of competition is relatively low. And actually look at some of the underlying numbers in terms of, say, access, quality of services, prices. In some sectors, certainly we've looked at telecommunications, fares poorly compared to other regions in South Asia as well as beyond. So I think even in those sectors, with greater competition, there could be a much more profitability, much better service delivery, and ultimately even more revenue to the government.
In terms of the areas that the World Bank is supporting, definitely we still have 14 ongoing operations totaling over $2.8 billion in commitment. But then the next one we are discussing is that primary health care, that how we can strengthen and also to scale up the nationwide to improve how the primary care is provided in almost 1,000 or more than 1,000 primary health care. And other areas we're discussing is renewable energy, as well as help the rural growth and resilience, focusing on agriculture, but then also the irrigation, and there's more integrated approach. But those are the areas that we are discussing. This is the future.
How does the World Bank and the country office see the risks of reversals in terms of the reform program?
It's put a lot of burden on Sri Lankan people in several areas, and of course that can lead to reform fatigue. There's the election coming up. I think there's different views. We are concerned about reform fatigue, reform reversal. We think it's important, as I said, it's this bridge to recovery, is that the reforms are critical in those areas to sustain and maintain them.
Of course, nobody can predict how the policy is going to go in the future. But the two areas that we've been really working on and also encouraging the government to do is one is communication, to help the broader stakeholders population to understand why these reforms are important and needed, although some are quite painful in certain areas. And the importance of a continuing reform if we are not to turn back to a more worst case scenario. So communication is critical, explaining the need and how they are interconnected. And second is we have been trying to help the reforms to, as much as possible, to make it harder to reverse turn back.
New Dulux Pentolite Hygiene Plus, refreshing walls for generations.
Dulux. State Minister of Finance Shahan Semasinghe says that the government expects fruitful engagements in the upcoming IMF and World Bank spring meetings in 2024, which will pave the way for unlocking the next tranche of the IMF Extended Fund Facility Programme granted to Sri Lanka. The IMF and World Bank spring meetings are scheduled to be held from April 15 to April 19th in Washington, D.C. Taking to X, Minister Semasinghe said Sri Lanka's journey to its current state of stability and progress is due to the support provided by the International Monetary Fund, World Bank and the international partners that supported Sri Lanka during the severe economic crisis Sri Lanka faced since year 2022. The minister said as Sri Lanka navigates the complexities of global economic changes and challenges, it will engage closely with the IMF and aim to contribute to broader international economic cooperation with other partners.
In a backdrop where the Yukti operation is being continued by Sri Lanka Police to tackle underworld activities, Inspector General of Police Deshabandhu Thenakone revealed plans to create a country free of narcotics and the underworld during the course of this year. Now, addressing the media in Bathramulla this morning, the police chief called on the members of the public to join hands with them in supporting their efforts to create a well-disciplined country that respects law and order.
Inspector General of Police Deshabandhu Thenakone, who engaged in a tour in the area of Bathramulla today, inquired into the well-being of the police officers deployed for duty during the New Year season. Meanwhile, addressing the media, the Inspector General of Police revealed plans to eliminate drugs and the underworld from society during the year.
Today I spoke to some of my police officers who are fulfilling their duty on the streets without celebrating Sinhala and Tamil New Year with their families. I came to share the joy of festivity with them. This year is crucial in terms of eliminating narcotics, underworld and other criminal activities taking place across the island in order to create an environment where the public can live peacefully without any fear. We will do that. If the public too joins hands with the police, there is no doubt about creating a well-disciplined country with laws and order. If the public too joins hands with the police, there is no doubt about creating a well-disciplined country with law and order.
Commander of the Sri Lankan Navy, Vice Admiral Priyantha Perera, says that the Navy has strengthened its maritime surveillance capabilities and assured that they will not allow harmful drugs to enter the island via sea routes.
Now, he made these comments while addressing the media at the Galle Harbour following the inspection of a consignment of narcotics that was seized by the Sri Lankan Navy.
The major operation thwarted 200 kilograms of narcotics in a raid conducted in the deep seas of the southern coast.
On the 12th of April, upon information received by the Naval Intelligence of an attempt to smuggle narcotics into the country, a vessel from the Sri Lanka Navy Coast Guard set out to conduct a search operation in the southern waters. During the operation, the Navy intercepted and inspected a suspicious fishing trawler that was located about 133 nautical miles off Dondra and discovered a large haul of heroin and crystal methamphetamine stuffed in over 200 packets. According to the Navy, the stash of heroin seized weighed 83.5 kilograms, while the haul of crystal methamphetamine weighed around 180 kilograms. 6 suspects who were on board the vessel were apprehended by the Navy. Further, the operation also resulted in the seizure of another one-day local fishing trawler with 4 suspects believed to have been there to fetch the consignment of narcotics mid-sea. The suspects, aged between 23 and 54 years, were identified as residents in the areas of Galle, Waligama and Imaduwa. The suspects, the fishing trawlers, along with the seized stash of narcotics, were brought to the Galle harbour last evening. Commander of the Sri Lanka Navy, Vice Admiral Priyantha Perera, also arrived at the harbour to inspect the narcotics haul. Following his inspection, the haul of drugs, the seized fishing trawler and the suspects were handed over to the Police Narcotic Bureau.
It's a widespread network. The narcotics are not becoming into Sri Lanka. in the Indian Oceans. They've been to various destinations along the African coast, East African coast, and there to islands like the Seychelles, Madagascar, and Maldives. And along with that, it's been connected with Sri Lanka. We have time and again proved such successes, seizing large quantities, volumes of narcotics, particularly heroin and ice. The particular fishing vessel, I guess that they have gone beyond the Maldivian waters to create the transaction from the transporting while they were drilling in about 1,000 nautical miles. This had been intercepted by the Sri Lanka Coast Guard vessel Samudra, and it is decepted that boarded found a large quantity, maybe approximately 200 kilos. We will continue to pursue and deter the narcotic facilities into this country.
Well, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa highlights that the policy behind each of his contributions to Sri Lanka's education is the vision to strengthen and modernize free education in the country. Addressing a gathering to provide funding to an outstanding young student in the robotics stream, the leader of the party, Samagi Janabalawegya, went on to say that the existing education system does not help children thrive and grow or pave the way for Sri Lanka to develop.
A student of the St. Anthony's College in Thoduava in Nathandiya, Nethuja Fernando, in an inter-school robotics and invention competition, was gifted 25,000 rupees by opposition leader Sajith Premadasa.
Nethuja Fernando won third place in a provincial robotics competition. I questioned about his expenses to design this robotic project and I was told it cost 20,000 rupees. His father is a fisherman who engages in his livelihood amid hardship to provide for his family. This child must be provided with good education. I am handing over 25,000 rupees for him to build another robot and further enhance his skills. There is a policy behind each of my donation, and that is to strengthen and modernize free education. The current education system does not uplift the children nor allow the country to develop.
Well, a New Year festival organised by the Api Youth Club in partnership with the Nuwara District Secretariat and the Nuwara Divisional Secretariat took place in Mi Pilimana in Nuwara today. And the occasion was graced by President Ranil Wickremesinghe. The New Year festival was made colourful with numerous traditional games and other events organised throughout the day. Now, President Ranil Wickremesinghe observed various cultural competitions and also awarded prizes to the winners of the Bakmaha cycling contest held earlier in the day. Now, the occasion was also attended by Minister of Tourism, Lands and Minister of Sports and Youth Affairs, Harin Fernando, and parliamentarian Nimal Pietissa.
Well, a temporary public transportation plan is operational starting this evening for those returning to Colombo following the Sinhala and Tamil New Year celebration. Speaking to other Derana, Chairman of Sri Lanka Transport Board, Sashi Velgama, said that the provincial councils were instructed to deploy buses based on passenger requirements. He went on to say that the special bus service launched this afternoon will continue tomorrow and day after. Meanwhile, 8 additional train journeys will be in operation from Badulla, Gaul and Beliatta railway station to Colombo Fort both tomorrow and day after. In addition, the railway department stated that office train journeys will also resume as usual from the 16th of April. The Secretary General of the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multisectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, or BIMSTEC, Indramani Pandey, says that Sri Lanka will be hosting a health ministers meeting of BIMSTEC member states for the first time this year.
Joining our program Hyde Park, the Secretary General said that Sri Lanka which was shown interest in leading the science, technology and innovation sector for the region, has prepared an action plan for the health sector of member states of BIMSTEC.
He also said that Sri Lanka has been given an action plan for the development of human resources, which focuses on the education and skills development of youth in all BIMSTEC member states. What has Sri Lanka's contribution been to whether it's regional cooperation, the really integration of the BIMSTEC member states?
What I felt that there is a strong commitment, not only contribute from Sri Lankan perspective to the success of BIMSTEC, but to the concept of regional cooperation itself. If you look at the conception of some of the regional organizations, Sri Lanka has always been in the forefront. Sri Lanka has consistently maintained this view that these regional organizations are essential for all the countries in the region to grow together. As you mentioned, they all can realize their developmental aspirations and provide better life for our people. The summit which Sri Lanka hosted was a landmark summit. After 25 years of its existence, BIMSTEC was able to adopt its charter at the Colombo summit in March 2022. Sri Lanka has been entrusted with the responsibility to lead regional cooperation in science, technology and innovation, which also includes health sector and human resource development. In health sector, Sri Lanka has not only successfully prepared a plan of action for all the member states, but it has also planned to host a meeting of the health ministers of BIMSTEC countries. For the first time, health ministers of BIMSTEC countries would be meeting in Colombo to chart out agenda for cooperation in very important health sector.
When will that be?
Sometime this year. The dates are yet to be announced by the government of Sri Lanka, but the plan is to host it during this year. And in important sector of human resource development, which is very vital sector for all the member states, Sri Lanka has again successfully prepared a plan of action which has been shared with the member states, and it has all the three components: education, capacity building and skill development, which is needed by youth in all our countries.
Now, the Met Department issued an advisory warning for severe lightning for 5 provinces. The forecaster expects thunder showers with severe lightning at several places in the western, Sabaragamuwa, southern, central and northwestern provinces. The Met Department further states that there would be temporarily localized strong winds during thunderstorms. The general public is advised to take adequate measures to prevent damages caused by lightning activity. The Met Department also requests the public to avoid using wired telephone connections, electrical appliances and open vehicles during thunderstorms, as well as avoid open areas such as paddy fields and open water bodies. For emergency assistance, local disaster management authorities can be contacted.
An accident involving motorcycles near Kulpana filling station in Horana resulted in both motorists sustaining injuries. With that, we take a look at some news across the country in brief.
In another road accident reported, 2 persons died after a vehicle travelling on the Badulla Bandaravera main road crashed into a tree in Haliala. It was revealed that the 2 deceased were 2 women aged 70 and 51. Another woman who was in the vehicle was admitted to the Badulla Teaching Hospital after sustaining severe injuries. An individual was killed following a personal dispute in Balangoda last night. The Balangoda police revealed that 8 individuals were taken into police custody in line with the incident. In other news, 2 individuals including a child were killed after a van toppled down a precipice in Halboda area of Pusalawa today. Police revealed that a 2-year-old child and a 70-year-old individual were killed in the brutal accident. The incident left 4 others injured.
Welcome back, everyone. Business news now. Sri Lanka has welcomed 50,537 tourists during the first 9 days of this month.
This brings the number of tourists who have visited Sri Lanka so far this year to a total of 686,321, over 1/4 of the island's target for 2024.
Now, central bank data shows that Sri Lanka earned over $1 billion during this period, up 103% from a year ago.
India continues to be the #1 market for tourists visiting Sri Lanka.
Since year 2023, tourist arrivals to Sri Lanka began to pick up as the island nation managed to gradually recover from an unprecedented economic crisis in 2022. Authorities said they are ensuring that necessary facilities are made available for foreigners visiting Sri Lanka. In 2023 alone, Sri Lanka welcomed 1.49 million tourists, with tourism-related earnings reaching $2 billion. The target for this year is to attract 2.4 million arrivals, and latest data confirm that the island has achieved over 1/4 of the target during the first quarter, with 635,784 arrivals. 218,350 were recorded in February, and in March, 209,181. Meanwhile, during the first 9 days of April, a total of 50,537 tourists have visited Sri Lanka, bringing the total arrivals between the 1st of January and the 9th of April to a total of 686,321. India continues to be Sri Lanka's #1 market, while Russia and the United Kingdom followed. According to central bank data, Sri Lanka earned $1.025 billion from tourism in the first quarter of 2024, up 103% from a year ago. Aitken Spence Corporate Services announced that the name of the company, Aitken Spence Corporate Finance Private Limited, has changed to Aitken Spence Corporate Services Private Limited with effect from the 13th of April. In its corporate disclosure, the company added that the nature, the legal status, and all other aspects of the company will remain unchanged. The statement further added that Aitken Spence Corporate Services Private Limited acts as the company's secretaries to Aitken Spence Hotel Holdings plc. Meanwhile, Asia Siaka Commodities plc announced the resignation of a director of the company. Accordingly, H.R. Vernon Caldera, who served as a non-executive director of the company, resigned during the first week of April. In its corporate disclosure, the company stated that the resigned director did not hold any shares issued by the company as of the date of his resignation. In other corporate news, Ambion Capital plc announced the dealings made by company directors. Accordingly, T.S.H. Mudalige, who serves as an independent non-executive director of the company, purchased a total of 9 million ordinary voting shares at 9 rupees per share. The relevant transaction was notified to the board of directors on the 10th of April.
Well, that's it from all of us at First at 9. Thank you very much for joining us on this New Year's Day. Once again, wishing all of you who's watching, your family, your loved ones, a very happy New Year. I'm Mahish Jani.
And I'm Indiveri Amuatha. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.